Thank you, sir. All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. The board does not write the zoning ordinance, but does have the authority to grant relief where practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship would result. The board will vote on each agenda item following the public hearing. Use of variance requests require a minimum of 6 affirmative votes in order to grant the requested variances. Non-use variance requests require a minimum of 5 affirmative votes in order to grant the variances. Please note that any order of the board is valid for a period of 1 year. If you would like to request that the board table or adjourn your case due to the absence of a full board, you must inform the chairperson immediately after the public hearing. Tonight we are down 1 member. Petitioners shall do their best to limit presentations to 10 minutes. Each participant in a public hearing shall do their best to limit comments to 3 minutes. All right, as stated, we're down 1 member, Mr. Klatt. So if there's anyone who needs us to adjourn it because they don't think 8's enough, just let me know. First order is approval of minutes for July 11th, 2024 meeting. Is there a motion and or amendment to the minutes? Mr. Gavin, motions to approve. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Hugan. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. There's no unfinished business, so we'll move on to new business, case number F240803. Whenever you're ready, here's the mic.
The subject property is located on the east side of York Road and it runs parallel to Woodward Avenue. And the parcel contains a single-family house which backs up to the Huntington Woods condos. And the petitioner is proposing to replace portions of the fence in their rear yard. The fence ordinance does limit fence height to 6 feet, and the petitioner would like to install an 8-foot fence to replace the existing fence along the rear lot line where it's circled.
Check. Okay.
So with that being said, the petitioner is seeking a variance to waive 2 feet of the maximum permitted fence height of 6 feet. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? Yes.
Did you say what, I'm sorry, with all this checking of the microphones, did you say what the existing fence, the height of the existing fence is now?
It does note on their plans that it shows 6 feet.
Okay, thank you.
You want me to check if that sounds right? Okay, everyone want to check real quick?
Test.
Checking.
Test.
Yeah,
Check.
seems to work.
Check.
Test. Okay,
Test. Test.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This one's working still. Okay. Sorry, questions for staff? No? Seeing none? All right. We have the petitioners present.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for listening. Thank you for giving the opportunity to appeal. So we have a 6-foot fence right now. It backs up to Woodward. You guys probably saw from, there's more pictures, but they show there's an alley, a condominium complex, a dumpster back there. The 8-foot fence we just feel like would give us a lot more security. 2 feet extra. So we're talking about 2 feet, but for us it's going to be peace of mind. Got 2 small kids. Woodward's kind of crazy. You guys know Woodward. Dream Cruise time is coming up, so I mean that's one of the most traffic times. But yeah, just that extra 2 feet I think would give us peace of mind. We don't feel like it's blocking anybody. The condo complex over there, you know, they come up to the fence line to put stuff in the dumpster. But for us, it's really that 2 feet gives some peace of mind. Just looking for approval on the appeal. So just appreciate everybody's consideration. Thank you.
All right, questions for the petitioner? Yes.
Have you guys had any issues with people on the other side of the fence, you know, throwing things away too late or otherwise just being loud? Like, has that been an issue so far?
Yeah, so we've lived there since 2018. Dumpsters they're heavy, so if somebody goes out there late at night, we kind of hear the bang. That's, you know, it doesn't wake us up at night. But yeah, it definitely is something we recognize. Yeah, so it's not a daily issue, but it's something that is there and it's loud enough to be noticeable. We think that the 2 feet may help, and it's due for a new fence anyways. I mean, I feel like I could go back there with 2 hands and yank it down, which doesn't have anything to do with the 6 to 8 feet, but just that extra 2 feet we think would give us a lot more security, peace of mind.
But you haven't had any other issues from people on the other side being, rowdy or just kind of a little more privacy more that you're asking for.
Yeah, my wife's right here. So the Dream Cruise, there's people like to park right there. Before we moved in, some of our neighbors were telling us they're maybe 10 to 15 years ago. They kind of targeted the property to wait until the family was away on vacation. And then I think they hopped the fence and used it as like an opportunity just to get away quick. So we weren't directly involved because we didn't live there at the time, but it's something our neighbors told us. And, just that extra, scaling a 6-foot fence is one thing, but I think 2 more feet, like I said, I think it just gives it a little bit extra security, a little bit extra peace of mind.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Mr. Gavin?
Just making sure it's working. Okay. If you guys don't, if we're like, say it doesn't get approved tonight for whatever reason, what's your plan B?
Plan B is a 6-foot fence. It needs to be repaired. Like I said, we're really hoping for that 8 feet. 5-year-old daughter, 3-year-old daughter. I mean, there's different styles you can get that kind of decreases the view. But somebody taller than 6 feet, for example, it's the appearing aspect. I mean, not just that I'd mistrust my Royal Oak neighbors, but people are crazy and just wanted that additional responsibility or additional 2 feet just for security. So.
Yes, Ms. Robbins.
Do you know if any of your neighbors have more than a 6-foot fence?
So on York, south of Lincoln is Royal Oak address. North of Lincoln's Huntington Woods. So where BP starts, if you guys can picture, BP is very close to us. They're on Lincoln and Woodward. So there's a wall, like a concrete wall you can picture. So that's 10 feet. So our immediate neighbors don't have that, but very close by is even so much as concrete, thick concrete, definitely higher than 6 feet north of Lincoln, which is Huntington Woods. So I couldn't say to be sure on the Royal Oak side, but I don't know. Do you recall if there's anything close by?
No.
It's 8 feet.
I mean, I don't know where it stops, but I mean, there are on our side of it.
Yeah.
Further down towards the zoo.
Yeah, further down towards the zoo. So there's probably a couple Royal Oak addresses. I just can't say to be certain.
Any other questions? I have a quick one, and you may not know the answer because I know when it comes to the 4-foot, 6-foot portion, if there was a certain amount of openness, one could have it, say, a metal fence above, like, the metal pointy type fence above the 4-foot line, and if it was open enough, that 6-foot would count like a chain link in a way. But in this case, a chain link, even if it was 8 feet tall, wouldn't be allowed.
Well, that would be, I believe if I understand correctly, that would apply if it was an issue with like a clear vision triangle. This one obviously isn't having anything to do with the clear vision triangle, so I wouldn't apply any type of provision such as that.
Okay, so even a chain link wouldn't be allowed at 8 foot. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Just a comment. I know it's not a question for me, but just the vision aspect. I mean, for us, it's just not having the ability to peer over our fence into our property just from, uncertain, like to your left and right, you got kind of get to know your neighbors. I just can't get to know any of my neighbors in the condominium complex with the parking lot there. It's just we don't come into contact too often. So that vision aspect is something that's important to us as well. I think I've already stated that, so just wanted to add that.
Question.
Yes.
As you go, if you went through the fence, is there a grade change? Is the parking lot higher, lower, same as on your side of the fence?
So the parking lot, I'm trying to think. So I think there's a little berm possibly, and then in front of that there's the dumpster, and then that's the parking lot. So in my head I'm like, hey, can I ask the condo complex to move the dumpster? Maybe a neighbor could share the burden for the next couple of years, but it's a straight shot in that parking lot to where the big trucks can't get anywhere else. So it makes sense. It has to be there. The garbage truck has to back up and get the dumpster in that exact spot, which just happens to be the back of my property. But yeah, I think it's pretty flat. Just the dumpster sits there. There's maybe a tiny bit of grass, and then it goes down maybe 6 inches. The dumpster's there, and yeah, so that's the view right there. That's the recycling bin of the right next to the dumpster. So that's kind of the view from my property into the parking lot right there.
All right. Any other questions for the position? Once, twice, 3 times. Okay, we're gonna open this up to public hearing. After public comments, if there's, you want, we can proceed, or we can delay till next month when we might have a full board or we might not. So just let me know at the end of public comment what you want us to do. Okay, you can sit down for a moment. Is there anyone to speak on this case? Feel free to come forward right now. Once? Twice? All right. Public comment is closed. All right. Would you like us to proceed or to adjourn to next month?
Proceed.
Okay, thank you. We'll bring it to this side of the board. Comments and or motions? Mr. Gavin,
I move to approve the variance as requested.
is there a second? Okay, I think I saw Ms. Zukin first. Go ahead.
I feel like this one's pretty straightforward. I know it's not technically commercial property right behind them, but with it being kind of a higher density and with Woodward right on the other side, and you can clearly see right through to Woodward there. It feels like it's more on a main street, which is usually historically when our board's been fine with higher fences, especially with very high traffic streets. So in that way, I see that as the practical difficulty relating to this, and I think it will still allow the spirit of the ordinance to be observed, because it's still in the backyard. Most people won't notice, except the people in the apartments, but I don't think they really care. Public health and safety and welfare secure. With public health, I mean, those garbage cans are right on the other side there. Safety-wise, the fence it does need replacing. I know he said he's going to replace it either way, whether it's a 6-foot or an 8-foot. But while they're doing it, I feel like going up to 8 foot is just fine. And substantial justice is being done. I think this is a very acceptable thing, and nobody seems to have a problem with it, despite getting notices. So I'm all for it.
Ms. Zukin.
I also think that this is more like a commercial setting. It's more like an alley. There's a parking lot, there's a big dumpster. I don't think we've ever denied a request for 8 feet separating a commercial alley from a residential. So that's why I'm supporting it.
All right. Any other comments? Okay, well, I unfortunately am going to be against this, although I agree with some of your comments of yes, it would be nice for the safety and stuff. The point is, this fence has already been here 6 feet. Nothing else along this whole side is 8 feet. If there was something else, I would be more inclined to allowing it to match. This would be the first thing that would stand out against it, and therefore would stick out more. I can understand their want for privacy, but all the houses around here are done the same way. They bought this house as it was, the existing condition as it was. So they knew going into it what it was going to be like, and I don't think this is an alleyway. So I think, although it has some points that I agree with practical difficulty, unfortunately I think it doesn't meet all, so therefore I cannot go along with the motion as suggested. Any other comments?
Comment?
Yes?
Looking at the site plan or the aerial of that area, I see landscaping buffers in the areas behind the buildings, but where you've got the parking lot, you can see it up tight against the fence there. So I'll be supporting the raising of the height of the fence because I think that the parking lot does introduce a different circumstance than elsewhere along that property line.
Yes.
Yeah, I also will be voting in favor. I was looking on the map how far my synagogue is from that property, and it's about a 4/10 of a mile walk, and I and many of my peers walk through that alley and by that alley to get to and from services. So I definitely understand that they probably don't want to see us walking, and we the closeness that people are going through that alley is it's a very obvious need, so I do get it. So
yes, I'll be in favor as well, especially with the dumpster located there. I feel that it is a security concern. I mean, somebody can hop on that dumpster and be right over the fence into their yard, and so I think the additional height is necessary for security.
Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to grant the variances as requested, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Right. Motion carries. Congratulations. Best luck to you. Okay, next one, case number F-24-08-04, 1125 East 6th Street. Whenever you're ready, you may take it away.
The subject site is located on the northwest corner of East 6th Street and South Rembrandt Avenue. As a background, back in May of this year, the building division issued a permit to the property owner to install a 6-foot tall wooden privacy fence along the side lot lines. However, upon inspection, after the fence was installed, it was noted by one of the building inspectors that the newly installed fence did exceed 6 feet in height, and it ranged between 6.4 to 6.7 feet at various points along the side lot lines. And of course, the fence ordinance does limit fence height to 6 feet, so the petitioner is seeking a variance to waive 0.4 feet from the maximum permitted fence height of 6 feet at the west property line and 0.7 of a foot of the maximum permitted 6-foot fence height at the east property line. Procedurally, if the variance were to be denied by the board tonight, then the petitioner would be responsible for bringing the fence back into a compliant height. Thank you.
Okay. Questions for staff? Yes.
Alex, is granting this variance part of resolving the code case?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right. Seeing none, if the petitioner is present, you may come forward and present your case.
Good evening, everyone. Appreciate the consideration. So yeah, we just built a new fence, and it's 6 feet at the post from the first post on our house, right? So we live on a corner lot, and unfortunately with the grading and the sidewalk cutting in really close, yeah, it's easy to see why it's over 6 feet. So we plan on bringing more dirt in to at least mitigate that a bit, but that's the main issue. I think that your inspector flagged.
Yeah, so the lot line grades down towards the back of the lot where it gets taller,
Yep.
as well as down towards the side. And since it's horizontal slat to keep the design cohesive across, right, we made it level at the slat, not level to the ground and making the fence look tilted.
Yep.
I have a quick question for you, and you might not know the answer. If they had the grading 6 feet all the way to the fence, all the way around, like they said they're going to bring up the grading, okay, does that fix it, or does it not?
I would say I would trust what the building inspector measured and what they showed on their site plan.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, questions? Yes.
So these are only 6-foot panels though, right? It's just that they're at different heights because of the grading.
Yep.
Why can't you just take that top 2x4 or 1x4 or whatever's off? Wouldn't that fix the problem?
So we were hoping to keep it at the 6 foot from the front view. That would be our
Preference, yeah. Because we're on a corner lot too, so we get a lot of foot traffic, so a lot of dogs.
I don't know how many jogs I can jump 6 feet. Other questions?
I know you have some letters in support. Do you have one to the neighbor to the west, your immediate neighbor on the other side of the fence?
Are you asking if they support it?
Yes.
As far as I know, yeah, we consulted with them and we told them we're ripping out the old fence because we had a shared gate as well, and we actually put on a gate for them. But as far as I know, yeah, no issues so far.
Question?
Yes.
So you mentioned the height of the fence for a dog, is that right?
Well, dogs and foot traffic, things like that. We have a big one inside, and then again.
Just by looking at the photos, it appears you've got quite a gap on the bottom. So I'm not sure.
He can't get out.
Okay, you got a big dog.
Yeah.
But to the question earlier, if the fence, if you were not, the variance was not approved, what would your solution be?
I'd have to bust out the table saw and take the top off. So
it'd be that top board that we see running down.
yeah, it'd probably be the top board, and then I'd have to hit the post as well, and then re-nail those copper tops to each pole as well.
Question for Alex is, if they lowered the length of the fence, do the posts have to be cut? Is it a max height, or can they have structure that?
No, I would have to defer that to the building division to work with the petitioner at that point to find a remedy.
Did you contract this to a fence builder? Or
No, I
you
built
did
it myself.
yourself? Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you. Again, we'll open up public comment, in which case afterwards I'll ask you if you want us to proceed or to adjourn to next month.
Appreciate everybody's time.
No problem. Is there anyone to speak on public comment for this evening? Going once? Twice? Okay, public comment's closed. Would you like us to proceed or? Okay, so we'll bring it to the board. Comments and or motions? Anyone? Yes, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll support.
Okay, Mr. Gavin.
I also live on a corner lot. Well, I sort of live on a corner lot. I don't have anybody to my side, but I do have a lot of people walking by me, and it's nice to have a little bit of privacy. I have a dog myself, and she goes crazy every time she has somebody, come in on her property, so to speak. So I definitely do understand the need to kind of keep it a little more private. I did see the letters of support and didn't see anybody against it. So again, I think this is open and shut, and if they're working with the building department to do whatever the building department says, then that's fine. That's why they're there.
Mr. Gavin?
I was a little torn on this at first, but I can see it being an honest mistake. Honestly, that's what I view this as. And I've walked past this house many times. This is really close to my own house, and I think it definitely improves the look of it. In that spirit, with it being a honest mistake, trying to be in compliance with the permit, and nobody objecting and letters in support, I feel good approving this.
Other comments? Ms. Hukin?
I'll just throw in my fence thing. I never did like 6-foot fences on corners. I live on a corner. But I did just put in a privacy wall around my deck that is horizontal, and you have to match up all the boards. And you're stuck with the grading of wherever you are. And I don't think this was an intentional violation. And it's very minor, so I have no problem with it.
Any other comments? Well, unfortunately, I think I'll be against this one again. Although I do agree with some of the comments and that it was an honest mistake. Unfortunately, it was self-imposed mistake in not clearly finding out what was required, because this was self-done instead of contracted out. Contractors normally know what city is looking for. And unfortunately, if we allow this kind of accident to occur, someone else may come before us, pretend that it's an accident when really was not an accident, and push something along. And unfortunately, because it's self-imposed problem that they brought, that's breaking up, trying to be 100% free and clear of all the practical difficulties, so therefore that's why I can't go along with it. There's any other comments?
Yeah, looking at the construction technique and the type, I think it's not especially if the petitioner is a handy guy, that to remove that top piece is not that difficult. It's a bit of a project certainly, but I agree that it's a self-created mistake, certainly, but to remedy it is not especially difficult, I think. So I will also be not in favor of the motion.
Any other comments? Yes, Ms. Ryan.
I'll just kind of say the same thing that you're saying. It's such an easy fix on this, and then it would be in compliance, and you're not having to, go against the rules.
Anyone else? All right, all those in favor of passing the variance as motioned, signify by saying aye and raise your hands.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Congratulations, you may keep your fence. Fine, keep your fence in that condition. Fair enough. Okay, case number F-24-08-05, 600 South Edison Avenue, whenever you are ready. Somebody take it away.
The subject site is also a corner lot, and it's at the southwest intersection of East 6th Street and South Edison Avenue. And the subject site contains a single-family dwelling with a garage which fronts onto East 6th Street. Back in April of this year, one of the city's code enforcement officers issued a violation to the property owner for putting up a 6-foot-tall vinyl fence which extends along the north side of the property without any permits. In May of 2024, the petitioner did submit a fence permit, and that was denied by the building division. The fence ordinance does state that there's a thing called a clear vision triangle, and it's essentially within where a driveway intersects with a sidewalk, there needs to be a 10-foot by 10-foot triangle, which needs to be essentially clear. If they do want to put a fence in that area, it can't be any taller than 3 feet. And obviously with a 6-foot tall vinyl fence, that's taller than 3 feet. So the petitioner is seeking a variance to waive 3 feet of the maximum permitted 3-foot fence height within 10 feet of the intersection of a driveway and a sidewalk. So similar with the last case, procedurally, if the board were to deny the variance request, then the petitioner would be responsible for bringing the fence into compliance. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Yes, Ms. Zukin.
Alex, do you know if the building department measured the wall underneath it? Or is it just the fence itself is 6 feet?
What they show in the plans that were provided to us from the building department is that the fence is 6 feet tall. They didn't provide any denotion whether or not that took the wall into account or not.
If I remember from a similar, different house, but similar case over, I think, in North Vermont, they go by from the grade where the fence is on. So in this case, that interior portion would be what they measure, not from the sidewalk. Yes, Mr. Ray.
I had a question. I couldn't tell now, but in the picture from the past, it looks like there's some shrubbery up against the fence. If the fence were gone, but there's some shrubbery or something in the clear sight triangle, does that have to be removed?
Technically, no. But if there, of course, if a fence is placed there, then yes, it would have to be clear.
Question, Alex, the 6-foot requirement, if the fence were 3 feet, does that comply?
If there's any fence placed within that clear vision triangle, the max height it can be is 3 feet.
3 feet?
Correct.
So if the fence were 3 feet high, this would not be an issue?
Correct.
All right.
Any other?
Further on that point, the building division did also provide this graphic, which we included in your packets, which lists some of the options that the property owners can take in order to bring it into compliance, or if they want to install anything within the clear vision triangle.
All right. Any other questions for staff? All right, seeing none, if the petitioner is present, you may come forward and state your case.
I'm sorry we didn't send you guys any pictures, but I did print some. So this is what the house was when I bought. It was a 6-foot fence, but as you guys can see, a portion of it fell off. It was maddening. If I were to fix that, I wouldn't even need a permit. But instead, let's face it, this does not look good. This does not add value to the community. It's not pretty. So instead, I put the vinyl one. I hired a contractor. He did not inform me that we needed a permit. So I trusted him. I'm a first-time homeowner. I trusted he knew what he was doing. As soon as I was notified that a permit was needed, I applied right away, which it was denied. But again, my intention here was to improve the community, beautify the community. It's a completely different house from what I bought to what now is. Other than that, I have letters from my neighbors, all in favor. My immediate neighbors, they are more than happy with it because they see the value that it's adding. And last but not least, I also have pictures of many properties very close to me with the same style of fence without the triangle or something else, as you guys can see. I have lived there for nearly 2 years now with the 6-foot fence, and no accidents has happened. So I understand that the city's concern is that an accident might happen, but it hasn't happened with me. I checked with the neighbors, hasn't happened with the old owner either. So I really hope that the board considers my appeal and grant my variance.
Any questions for the petition?
Let me know if you guys want to see the letters.
Yeah, I don't think we had those.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I was just a bit sorry.
That's all right. Thank you.
Question.
Yes, Mr. Lyon.
Same question as the last. If you were not granted the variance, what would your resolution be for dealing with the fence?
Honestly, I talked to the contractor and I told him that we would have to come up with a plan to get in compliance, which he has agreed to, but of course I have to pay for him to do that. And I would then need to see what would be the best course of actions. But I'm really hoping I don't have to, because again, had I left that horrendous fence, I would not be going through this. So I really hope that I don't have to.
This may or may not be relevant, but just wanted to ask: did the contractors say that they had done work in the city before, or is this person's, not that it excuses them, but
Correct. He's not from Royal Oak. He's in Waterford, but he has said that he has done Troy, Royal Oak, the area, the surrounding areas. So again, I'm assuming that if you are professional in fence, you would know the basic, which is the permit. But again, as soon as I was notified that that was wrong, I immediately applied.
So just for the record, like, yes or no, this person did.
He has said so, yes.
He did. Okay.
Yes.
That's what I wanted to ask.
It's ready.
My question is, I know this is unfortunate and it would be difficult, but since this is a safety issue, I know you said that there haven't been any accidents, but just because there haven't been in 2 years is not
Sure.
necessarily going to guarantee that there wouldn't be. So do you have any reasons why you think this is not a safety issue or wouldn't be in the future? Like, is there something unique about this site triangle that, you know, is not unsafe?
I'm not sure I understood your question, honestly.
I guess.
I'm sorry, English is not my first language.
No, from your experience of pulling in and out of the garage, do you feel like this site triangle is not an issue, or is there a reason why you think there haven't been any accidents or wouldn't be in the future, even if someone else were to live there, is the question.
I think it's because, well, I'm by myself. So honestly, I mostly park on the street. Just because to me, I don't like my own inconvenience of having to go through the yard. I like just to get out. But even winters, for example, of course, I use the garage. Most of the cars today have the safety thing where you go beep, 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 beep when you're, sometimes my thing goes even if I'm too close to the fence. So I think that that's one thing that helps prevent. Another thing is really paying attention. And again, I really don't think that the triangle itself would be the one thing that would prevent those accidents. So, which is why I really am asking for the variance. It's because I don't feel like this is a urgent and strong matter that would make or break.
Any other questions for the petition? All right, seeing none, we'll move to public comment. After public comment, I will ask you if you want us to proceed or to adjourn to next month since we don't have a full board. Okay. So if you want to, you can just sit down for a second. Is there anyone to speak on this matter? You may come forward at this time for public comment. Going once, going twice. Oh, here we got someone. Excellent.
Hi, my name's Annette Bromley, 830 Lexington. I came to speak on a different matter, but I feel bad for her. I really do. But I bike a lot, and we run into all kinds of crazy safety things that that we run into. But possibly a solution would be to ask her to put up a mirror or a camera and to provide some extra safety. And that fence had been there for years, and no city official came by and said, you can't have that beat up fence because it's not in compliance. So I don't know when the rule came to be, but driving by, nobody's ever pointed out that that's not in compliance, and it's been there for years. So just those ideas. It's a difficult decision, but maybe she could do something else. And how would she know that that should have been 3 feet? And I think the onus is on the contractor. He should have known, and I hope you say something to him.
Oh, I have.
So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else to speak on this case? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay, would you like us to proceed or hold off till next month?
Proceed.
Okay, we'll bring it to this side of the table. Is there discussion and or motion? I'll first ask a question just in case that might help. If this gets denied, the only thing she would have to change is the triangle, not the rest of the fence could stay how it is.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Discussion and or motions? Mr. Davin.
I guess I'll start with discussion and then throw my motion out there. With these, and we just had one of these a couple of months ago, or was it last month? I can't even remember. The safety issue for me overrides. Like, I feel awful for you. I'm actually an attorney. I deal with a lot of construction issues like this, and I feel like you got the raw end of the deal here. But on this, the safety issue overrides because I have 2 small children. My daughter just learned how to bike without training wheels, and like we go on bike rides and through the neighborhoods, and actually live not far from you. And I just have visions of my daughter focusing on keeping her bike from wobbling and not falling over and not paying attention to what's going on around her. So that's the safety issue that I have, and that's why I'm not going to be in favor of this tonight. So yeah, that's my driving, and I feel awful for you, and I'd actually be happy to talk to you afterwards if you feel like sticking around for the whole meeting so you can learn some options. But yeah, that's where I'm at. So I guess with that, unless anybody else wants to say anything before I make a motion, I can.
You're on roll.
I will move to deny the variance as requested.
Is there a second? Mr. Reddy, go. Anything else to add, Mr. Gavin?
No.
Okay, Mr. Reddy, anything to
No, I think Mr. Gavin said it.
Mrs. Zukin?
I feel terrible about this one too, but 15 years ago when I moved into my corner lot, I called the fence guy out, and the first thing he said to me was, "Why bother? It can only be 3 feet high." So he should have told you, and hopefully you have options, but it's a safety issue, and that's why I have to vote against it.
Any other comments?
I actually will be voting against the motion and in favor of that. Again, I agree with my colleagues that it is the onus is on the fence contractor. But that being said, I think that it doesn't go out in the property. I think that, again, living on a corner lot, it does add for a little bit of extra safety. And I don't live too far from there either. And I've never felt unsafe while riding my bike or walking my dog in a way that would be, somebody might come out or something like that. So, again, it's kind of, it's hard to, I really do feel for you. But I think, in this one, I don't see the safety risk that you guys see.
Any other comments? Ms. Robbins?
I know your neighborhood really well. My husband grew up there, and it's beautiful what you did to your house. Your house is really gorgeous. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to vote with the motion that's on the floor that it is a safety issue, and it's not. I mean, I understand you have definitely a complaint with your contractor, and I've also seen some fences around the city too, where they've done some unique things. Like there was one, and I don't know if it was a compliance within the rule, that they actually had like a window in the fence so that you could still see through the fence. So maybe there's some other options that you can do that would be kind of unique that might, I don't know, you might want to look into something like that.
Other comments? Mr. Moore?
Sure. For the reason of the safety of people going down the sidewalk, I'll also be supporting the motion, but I will say that I think there are options that you have with a shorter fence and maybe some plantings that can make up the difference. So unfortunately, I will have to support the motion. I feel bad for you, and I hope you find a solution.
Likewise, it's in my mind, it's a safety issue, and hopefully there's some avenue for your fence contractor, whether it's goodwill or otherwise, to come out and provide you some options that are acceptable to you and the city as well. But this is a condition that, it seems pretty straightforward as far as what the requirements are and the zoning. And unfortunately, your contractor, didn't abide by the rules. So you are, I guess, in one sense, to be applauded for the improvement overall to what you've done with the home, and the look of the fence is beautiful, and the around the other side of the garage is certainly an improvement. But in this case, for this particular area, I've got to go on the side of safety, and I will be supporting the motion.
And unfortunately, I too will be supporting the motion. I think it is not your fault. You should not pay a dime, I think, because that contractor should have got a permit. That contractor, had he got the permit, would have been told what he could and couldn't do, especially if he's worked in Royal Oak before. So in my opinion, that contractor should be fixing this gratis for you, instead of having ill will social media aspects that you could easily throw upon him and anything else. And I totally feel bad for you, but like Mr. Gavin, I've had times where my daughter almost got hit in a situation like this from a car backing out, and that was with a safety triangle. So this is a purely safe thing, and you're in a more public area with a lot more people walking by and riding by in that area. Had this be a side alley or something else like that away from the downtown, maybe I would be more akin and maybe more amenable. But in this case, because of how your proximity is, there's too many people around you're lucky so far that nothing's happened, and that's because you parked on the street. The next owner may not be so lucky. And that's what we have to think about when we grant our variances, is not only the current owner, but the future owner. So because of that, I unfortunately have to go along with agreeing with denying the variance. There's no other comments. We'll move to vote. All those in favor of denying the variances that's been requested, signify by saying aye. Aye. Against? All right. The motion carries. Unfortunately, your fence variance is denied. Let's see, we are moving on to so many pages. I really would like it if this was split up. It would make it easier. I intend to nudge whoever puts this together. Case number 24-08-24, 325 Mount Vernon Boulevard. Whenever you are ready, you may take it away.
The subject site is a corner lot. It's located at the southeast corner of Mount Vernon and North Washington Avenue, and this is within the one-family large lot zoning district. And the site is currently developed with a single-family house with an attached garage which faces North Washington Avenue. The petitioner is proposing to demolish the existing house and garage on site and construct a new two-story single-family dwelling with an attached garage, which also will be accessed off of North Washington Avenue, as similar to the existing house. And the zoning ordinance states that single-family structures cannot exceed 3,500 square feet of usable floor area. Now, staff has calculated the 2,942 square feet of usable floor area on the first floor, and on the second floor, staff calculated 2,406 square feet of usable floor area. So that combines to 5,348 square feet of usable floor area. I would point out that there is a foyer and a staircase as well as a great room on the first floor, which extends upwards to the second floor. So although this does not necessarily contain floor area, openings to lower levels are included in the definition of usable floor area for residential uses, so staff did have to include these elements in our calculations. Therefore, the petitioner is seeking a variance to waive 1,848 square feet from the maximum allowable usable floor area of 3,500 square feet. The zoning ordinance also places a limit to how big accessory buildings can be. It's more specifically, it states that it cannot exceed 10% of total lot area, but also under no instance can it exceed 800 square feet of ground floor area. Their proposed garage is 921 square feet of ground floor area. So this only represents about 3.6% of total lot coverage, but it still does exceed 800 square feet. So that also needs a variance to waive 121 square feet from the maximum allowable 800 square foot cap for accessory buildings. Thank you.
Questions at all?
Question, Alex, the accessory square footage, does that change or is it different between an attached garage versus a detached garage?
Whether it's attached or detached, it's still the same provision, so 800 square feet or 10%.
Okay. And then there is a lanai or a seating area to the
We viewed that as a separate element, so we did not include that.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? No? All right, then the petitioner, you may come forward and present your case.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Dennis Cowan. I am here representing Rachel and Jacob Claude, who are here and are going to speak to you in a moment. Also with us is our architect, Michael Gordon. You've probably seen Michael before. He's designed many commercial and residential buildings in the city of Royal Oak, and this is another example of his excellent work and artistry. If I could, Mr. Chairman, if I could just approach and give you permission distribution our updated petition that has been signed by neighbors, and I'll talk about that in a second. I'm going to give a brief introduction, have Rachel and Jacob speak to you. Michael, I'll do a short summary. We'll stay within your time frame. We were able to have a neighborhood meeting. All 20 neighbors who are on the 300-foot notice were invited. We had 6 residents join us in the backyard on a very warm night, I might add. The pool was open, but nobody jumped in. In any event, it was a very good discussion with the 6 residents who did come. We were able to share the plans. And coming off of that also, Jacob was able to gather 16 signatures from residents, most importantly 10 who are very close, both on 13 Mile and on Mount Vernon. And that includes persons directly across the street, to the east, to the west, and then behind on 13 Mile, especially the 3 or 4 homes that are directly behind. I might also note for the record that kitty corner and the house over, so that would be 2 houses away on the north, at 414 Mount Vernon, is a home that the Zoning Board of Appeals granted a, I'll call it, large house variance to, and I believe the square footage there is 4413. That house has been there for 15 years. It does not appear it has had any kind of adverse impact on adjacent properties or the neighborhood as a whole, and fits in very well. So at this time, I'm going to have Jacob and Rachel want to address you, and then have Michael run through some particulars of the home itself. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Members of the ZBA, thank you so much for having us. As Dennis said, my name is Jacob Claude. This is my wife, Rachel. We both grew up in Metro Detroit and have lived in Royal Oak now for 3 years on Woodside, so just half a mile away from here. And when we moved into the house, we lived there with our daughter, our dog. We would go on walks and kind of just look around at neighborhoods, and fell in love as we saw Lexington and Mount Vernon and these great lots, great streets, great homes, and just kind of dreamed and imagined what would that look like to possibly be able to live there one day. And so earlier this year, 325 Mount Vernon went up for sale. We purchased the home, and the house does not have a basement, single-story home, about 1,200 square feet. Did have a great existing pool that was there, and so not having that basement really in our minds kind of eliminated the idea of wanting to renovate that. Instead decided, let's explore the option of building a new home there. And so as we looked at that and designed that, our builder has been building in Royal Oak for 25, 30 years, Mac Construction. He recommended us to Michael Gordon, who you'll hear from a little bit, but wanted to build and design something that would fit the neighborhood, that was old school Royal Oak, hopefully some of the pictures in there, colonial style, that fit in with that. And then when looking at kind of size and needs, which is obviously kind of the question here, wanted to design and build something for our current family, for any other potential kids that we may have. So that's the bedrooms upstairs. And then something that's super important to us is we actually met kind of at a home that was it was very open door policy, and that's kind of the reason for, I guess, our relationship and family. So as we looked at the proximity to the high school and having dreams of our daughter coming home with friends from after school and being able to host at the pool, those were really the things that drove the decisions on what was designed, why it was designed, being able to be a community space, being able to be something that people can come over. So that was what we designed and kind of went through. So understanding that as we learned that this was over the variance, it was important to us to make sure that no neighbors felt like this was a surprise or something that they didn't anticipate. So besides having the 6 that came over, we went and knocked on every single door. Were able to meet almost every neighbor that was there, and overwhelmingly the majority said some version of go right ahead, or I'd like to see the plans, and we sat down and had one-on-one meetings with a lot of them. So overwhelmingly the people said, go right ahead. We think it'll be great. It'll be an improvement on what's there, and we're hoping that it's something that we can live in for a long time and have our family in and future generations. So I think Michael's going to go over the specifics.
Good evening. Mike Gordon, as I mentioned, architect in Royal Oak for the last 31 years. So we've had our business here in various locations. We've already discussed it's the two variances that we're seeking is that, over the 3,500 and then the size of the garage. Now, one thing that we were very sensitive to was Rachel wanted me to bring, this was my original hand sketch, which was the inspiration for this, and she was really fell in love with this look. One thing that we were sensitive to was not making the house seem too large, even though it is large. We've broken the roof line, we've dropped it down, we've offset different areas of the house to give it sort of a scale. You can see how the ins and outs of it. And the setbacks. The 50-foot front yard setback, we kept the house in line with all the other houses. But the side yards, there's a 5-foot required. We've provided a 15-foot 3 side yard, which also creates a 26.5-foot separation between the house to the east, which is very generous. We wanted to make sure that we weren't overshadowing the neighbor's house. On the Washington side, we're required to have a 10-foot. We have 16.5 feet, which again is narrowed the house up so the street presence is much more in keeping with the neighboring houses. And of course, this house lot is so generous that even with the covered porch, we're 76 feet from the rear yard, which is a 35-foot requirement, and we're 158 feet away from the adjoining house to the south. And there's a whole landscape area in between. Again, with this 25,000 square foot lot, even with everything that you see here, where 30% lot coverage is allowed, we have 16.7. So we haven't even pushed the envelope in any other way. We comply with everything else. Further, since it's a corner lot, the driveway enters from the side street, which means there isn't that ribbon of driveway running up the property line, so the entire front yard is landscaped except for the sidewalk to the front door. So we think we've tried, and we're only removing 2 trees that are on the site to accomplish this. So we've really studied this well and tried to make a house that we feel fits in. Again, with the sloping roof lines and just the sense of the brick structure, I think people would look at this house and thought it might have been an original house to the neighborhood. We've done a lot of work in all of the inner suburbs around here, Grosse Pointe, Birmingham, Sherwood Forest, and Detroit. So we have a sensitivity. We've won multiple awards for historic restoration. So I know what it takes to put a house together that looks like it's always been there and fits in with the neighborhood. Finally, there's one issue that has come up. As we discussed, the way the square footage is calculated, this space over the great room is counted as square footage. We have no intent of using it because of the 12.5-foot high ceiling of the great room. We'd have to create a stairway of 4 steps up. There's never an intent. And this hole in the house is also counted as multiple square footage. So we think it misrepresents the total square footage of the house. If we ever wanted to come back and develop that space as square footage, we'd have to pull a permit. There would be red flags and the city would say, no, you can't do it. If, in fact, or if we get this approval, yeah, we can make more square footage. That's never been the intent. So this volume of space, there was a previous variance that was granted to one of my other clients where we had the walkable attic. We just reduced it to a non-conforming ceiling height and the square footage is no longer counted. So we think that this is a little bit of misrepresentation of what we're looking for. And the garage ask, the 160 square feet is mostly, if you look at the floor plan layout, this is the front stairs. If you're offloading, if you're offloading furniture from the deck, they wanted an interior staircase in the garage so that they can easily take all of their equipment, all of their pool equipment, all the chairs and lounge chairs and take them down and store them in the basement instead of taking them through the whole house. As opposed to creating yet another accessory structure. We felt that with this basement, they had plenty of room to store it. So those are the things that are driving that ask for the extra size in the garage. We think this house would fit in well with the community and it enhances the area, and the design does not overbuild for the site. And we're glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, very quickly. Rachel and Jacob feel very strongly they're glad to enter into a condition that you can add, and you're allowed to, that they won't build on the 535 square feet of attic and airspace. Because really it's about 4,813 square feet of living space is what they're really asking for. We understand the way the city counts it, but we're trying to get to what the real variance is. This is a unique lot. It's 25,000 square feet. It's bigger than 3 pocket parks we have in the city of Royal Oak. Probably this is less than 1% of the lots fit into this category, and which allow to have, and it's also on a corner, which allow to have a larger home, and we also easily fit into the lot coverage. I think we're at about half of the 30%. We don't have any other variances we're requesting, including width, and as Michael pointed out, we're well beyond and exceed the side yard setback requirements. The master plan objective at 1.2 we are consistent with, which clearly states enhance physical, for residential areas, that the city should enhance physical appearance and economic value of existing neighborhoods. We believe that this home will do that. We've worked very hard with neighbors and others. We know not everyone will agree. We accept that, but we do respectfully ask for the approval of the 2 variances. And I know you have to have a public hearing, and then we'll talk about moving forward. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for the petitioner? Yes, Ms. Zukin.
Was there any attempt to design a 3,500 square foot house?
I wasn't along for all the design. I was along for a couple redos, which reduced the size of the house, but no, there was not an attempt to do a 3,500 square foot house.
Are you guys living there right now, or are you on the current house at Woodside?
We still live at Woodside right now, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Moore.
With the indication of the stairway that goes to the basement from the garage, can you address what the practical difficulty is in needing a 3-car garage?
So the desire there was just to have straight access to the pool. So rather, as you're storing stuff, rather than going around, so just making that easy right there. So there's that back garage door, kind of lets you host in there and have things there. So just ease.
Okay. I would just add that, having seen the plans and the layout of the house and having been there, that if you hadn't expanded the garage, if you didn't have this garage, you would have to have another accessory building, because you have all the lawn furniture, all the pool equipment, the cleaning equipment, all the things. Anybody who has a pool knows what you have with all that. So,
And I'll also add that the 800 square feet is allowed. That is a 3-car garage. This is just an enhanced 3-car garage.
Other questions? I have one. This is, in my memory, the largest amount of ask we've had come before us, even bigger than what was on Hendry, and that had 3/4 of an acre. What precipitates the need for all this square footage? Like, for example, the atrium that's even on there. Why is there the need to have this much square footage for this house?
I think, as I've said before to the zoning board, we have a lot of diversity in Royal Oak, and we have diversity of choice. Some people only want a small house because they don't want to take a big house and they don't want to pay taxes on it. Others make choices to have a slightly larger home with maybe a few more amenities. And I think the pattern in Royal Oak, as everyone sees, with the tear downs that we've had and the rebuilds, is most of those houses are much bigger than the houses that they're replacing, whether in any size neighborhood. But I think the fact that you have a lot where this house can fit very proportionally, I think no one can disagree with that, because of its size and it being on a corner, that it lends itself for the allowance to have a larger home. And it's really a matter of choice of the type of house that you want to have. And I think that's something that I think the city should encourage and not discourage.
Okay, so choice instead of a hardship. Thank you. Well, what's the hardship of needing that large of a house? That's what I'm asking
the
for.
The hardship is, okay, you want to talk about the legal hardship. The hardship is we have conflicting ordinances here. We have a 30% lot coverage. We're less than half under that. And we have also then this cap which, by the way, is on no other type of restriction or requirement within the zoning code for residential. It's only on this. This is the only one. And so I think that this conflict creates a hardship that you otherwise would not have. If we didn't have a 30, that's the whole basis of coming, is that before the board is because we're asking for a variance because there is something standing in the way of allowing someone to build a home that they would like to build. And so the hardship is with the conflict in the ordinance, and that's what we're asking for.
Okay.
Okay?
Excuse me, as for the applicants, is there any reason that you guys are not living in the house or renovating the house from a outdated point of view, or what's the, I know you said it's because of the basement, but it's like the house out of date? Is the house, functionally, looks like inside from the 1970s?
Yeah, it's an older home. It has not been updated. There's one bedroom where it is also the laundry room. So there's just some functional things in there, not having that basement.
And do you know approximately the last time it was renovated or updated, approximately?
I don't actually know the year it was built, but I know not much has been done in the last, I believe it's 50 or 60 years. So,
okay.
Yeah, there's definitely things starting to fall, and the dishwasher pulls out, and yeah.
So just again, yes or no? It's functionally, the house inside is functionally obsolete.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Kevin.
This one's more for Alex. You mentioned that this is one of the larger ones we've done recently. I honestly can't remember. Is this larger than the, what was the square footage on the house on Hendry?
I don't remember the one on Hendry off the top of my mind. The most recent case that we did have was the one on Lexington 2 months ago. It was 5,000 square feet of usable floor area.
That one was denied, correct? Yeah, okay.
Any other questions for the petitioner? All right, seeing none, we'll go to public comment. Afterwards, I'll ask whether or not you want us to proceed or adjourn for the month for maybe possible full board, or proceed. Okay, is there anyone to speak on this case? You may come forward.
Hi, good evening. My name's Craig Cutler, 208 Mount Vernon Boulevard. We're just down the street. I'm here at the bequest of several neighbors and my wife, Joan. Some of the comments were prepared by a neighbor that couldn't be here tonight, and I echo these sentiments. The new owner wants to build a residence and garage much larger than Royal Oak zoning ordinances allow, to wit, a 5,348 square foot home when the ordinance limit is 3,500, which is 50% above the ordinance. An accessory building / garage at 921 square feet, where the ordinance limit is 800 feet, which is 15% over the ordinance. All of the following conditions or requirements need to be met. The chapter's restrictions unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted use. Permitted use is a single-family residence, which is proposed maximum square footage of 3,500 plus the 800. Restricting size does not prevent the owner from using the property for this permitted use. That the variance would do substantial justice to the application as well as the property owners in the district. And a lesser relaxation than that would not give substantial relief to the owner of the property. A building this size is inconsistent with justice to other subdivision residents whose dwellings are nestled into a lot of green space. That the plight of the landowner is due to the unique circumstances of the property. Nothing unusual about the property. It's similar to other nearby lots whose dwellings do conform with code. And also that the alleged hardship has been caused, the alleged hardship has not been created by any person presently having an interest in the property. The only potential hardship is that the purchaser cannot do what they want with the property. They have created the only ostensible hardship themselves. In truth, the hardship seems to be that the owners can't do exactly what they desire. The letter from the architect indicated that the proposed buildings would be significantly less than the lot coverage maximums in the general zoning ordinance principles. And it's true, the lot this size could architecturally support larger buildings, but the master plan specifically applies to this building size to houses in large lot, single-family residential neighborhoods. These variance requests threaten the essential character of the neighborhood. The list of the list of neighbors who signed in support of this building does not represent Mount Vernon Boulevard. Only 5 of the 15 signees live on Mount Vernon Boulevard, and many are not close to the home. At least one signee stated they didn't see the plans. In addition, you have a person living on an apartment and other streets.
Unfortunately, sir, it's been 3 minutes. Are you able to quickly wrap it up?
Yes, I'm almost at the end. We're just saying this does not represent neighborhood support, the list. And we ask that you uphold the building ordinances.
Did you say you had that signed with other residents, or is that that prepared statement?
What I had,
if you had other people, you could. Oh, you just had his.
This.
Okay.
That's
okay.
what I was
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, I thought when you started, you said you had other residents that went along with it. I thought you had something.
One of our neighbors who lives kitty corner to the proposed lot did a lot of this.
Sorry, I was confused for a second. I thought you had a petition that we hadn't seen yet.
Oh, no, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else to speak on this case?
Hi, my name's Annette Bromley from 830 Lexington, one street over from Mount Vernon. We were here a few weeks ago discussing almost the same thing, and it was denied on Lexington. I get that this is a corner lot and it could handle a little bit bigger house. However, the owners of the house said that they want to live on the street because they like the neighborhood. Yet this is extremely changing the whole look of the neighborhood. There are 10 to 15 houses or more on Lexington and Mount Vernon that are going to be lined up to do the exact same thing. We saw it a couple times already. They are tear-down type houses by today's standards. Some don't have basements. And we're lining it up, and what happens when 10 or 15 more houses get built like this? That's my fear. Not so much the one house on the corner lot. I'm not opposed to the garage. To me, that's fine. So that is my fear. A lot of people have said, you like Lexington, you like Mount Vernon, you like living here, you like how it looks, but yet there's neighbors who don't take care of their yard. They move in and they change everything. They like it, and then, so you're building this larger house and you're changing everything and how it looks and what you really truly like about this neighborhood. Also, like a lot of these bigger houses are now becoming in Royal Oak tear-down houses. Houses that are over 2,000 square feet are now tear-downs. Granted, I totally get why they're tearing it down. There's no basement. It's not practical, but this is extreme. Also, I'm a little disappointed that you didn't show the other basement and the second floor. My understanding, I think I counted 7 bathrooms. I don't think that's a hardship. Also, let's see, it has to meet the 4 criteria, and it has to, that's how the rules are written. I really think Royal Oak needs, as a whole, to readdress this whole thing, because this isn't going to stop happening. We're going to be here month after month in different neighborhoods, and we need to talk about this. This needs to be a discussion. Instead, we're like playing whack-a-mole with these variances. We need it to be clear, concise. We need it to be consistent. It can't be like what's the word? It's not. It can't be that it needs to be based on fact and not just here or there, change our mind. And there needs to be clarity to it. So I really hope Royal Oak looks at this because it's exhausting for you, it's exhausting for the neighbors. We need to look at it.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak? Going once? Going twice? All right, public comment is closed. Would you like us to proceed or would you like us to delay a month?
We would respectfully ask for a deferral to October because Jacob and Rachel have a planned family vacation and they're not going to be here and they do want to be here.
Okay.
So if we could, your indulgence would be we would come in October.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you very much for your time and we look forward to seeing you in October.
I would say if the motion carries, I'd say please take into account comments that have been stated. Is there a motion to delay?
Actually, before I make a motion, I just want to be sure, can we delay this till October, or is it by our rules,
Yeah.
we have to do it till next month? I just didn't know. Okay.
I know for sure we can delay next month, but have it automatically delayed till.
I think if the board agrees to do that, I don't see any issue. Alex, do you see any issue?
That's fine.
Then I move to delay this item till October.
Is there a second? Okay. Go.
And Brian, just say that one more time. So we can delay for 2 months, or it's going to be 1 month and then an automatic 1 month, or how's that going to work?
Well, I believe how the motion is to adjourn it into
For 2
October.
months. Okay, yeah, I know that's fine. I just wanted to make sure I understood the process, but no problem.
Okay, it should be a motion to postpone to October.
Oh, yes, postpone.
Motion to postpone until October.
Good call.
Okay.
I will
Okay.
refer
Any
to my motion.
comments on that?
I have a comment. I'm actually going to be opposed to this motion because I think I might not be here in October. So I don't want to push something off knowing that I might not be here. So that's the only reason I'll be opposed.
The only comment I'll have to that is, well, I understand that usually it's if the petitioner requests something, especially a postponement, we usually grant them. It's their request more so, not our convenience. Any other comments? All right, seeing none, we'll move to vote on this motion. All in favor of postponing to October, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. See you in October. Also, for petitioners who came here for public comment, please note there won't be any official notice of this being in October, so if you want to reattend, you will have to come back in October. All right. As I scroll through all these pages. I love the old setup better. Case number 24-08-25, 1023 South Main Street. Whenever you are ready.
Thank you. The subject site's located on the east side of South Main Street between East Hudson and East Harrison. And the property is developed with an existing one-story building which is occupied by the Ye Old Saloon. And off-street parking is provided in conjunction with the mixed-use building located directly to the south, which is also owned by the petitioner. At their July 9th, 2024 agenda, the City of Royal Oaks Planning Commission approved a site plan and special land use approval, which allows the petitioner the ability to construct a new 452 square foot storage addition onto the building, as well as a 570 square foot outdoor patio area on the north side of the building. And the petitioner will also be undertaking interior renovations, which will be expanding the usable floor area within the building by 212 square feet. So the Planning Commission's action is contingent upon the petitioner obtaining the requested variance. The building in its current configuration would require 34 off-street parking spaces. The approved site plan expansion would require 14 additional off-street parking spaces for a grand total of 48 spaces needed. The mixed-use building to the south would require a total of 94 off-street parking spaces, and that's based upon the current uses within that building. So altogether, the bar in the mixed-use building would require 142 off-street parking spaces. The site, however, provides 78 off-street parking spaces. The important thing to note is that there were 3 previous occasions in which the Zoning Board of Appeals granted parking variances, which totaled to 52 parking spaces waived. So staff applied these previous variance requests, which were granted, to their parking calculations. So ultimately, this would leave a deficiency of just 12 additional spaces. So the petitioner is seeking a variance to waive those 12 spaces from the minimum required 142 off-street parking spaces to permit the construction of the outdoor patio, storage addition, and interior renovations at the Yield Saloon. Thank you.
Questions for staff? I have one. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry,
You can go.
this might be quick, but on the bottom of page 76, it says 14 additional off-street parking spaces. Is that a typo, or am I reading something? Because you asked for 12, the request is for 12, correct?
Yes, but based upon the size of the additions that they want to do, as well as the interior modifications, the bar itself would just require 14 additional spaces. Staff provided calculations as well within the report, which highlights the amount of parking spaces needed both for the mixed-use building as well as for the Yield Saloon.
So the net at the bottom is the 12 is the deficiency?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
The question I have, okay, so it's am I correct in assuming it's the new patio area that basically is adding on all those new required spots? I mean, I know the storage addition is adding a little bit, but nothing compared to...
With the outdoor patio as well as the interior modifications, which are going to increase the usable floor area as well.
That's what I was
Those
wondering,
two
is
combined.
what was I was trying to discern what was the interior modifications that gained more.
I believe they noted on their floor plan an expanded prep kitchen, but the petitioner can also provide more insight as well.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for staff? All right. Seeing none, if the petitioner is present, you may come forward and present your case.
Good evening, Brian Howard with HF Architecture. Santa Zuida is the owner of the Old Saloon and also the ZMC building. To answer your question with regards to the 14 spaces versus the 12, we had actually a surplus of 2 spaces. So that's where that's why it's only 12 versus 14. The project is to provide an outdoor patio area, and I know that we have some renderings done. I don't know if you can get to those and show what we're trying to do here, which is actually to create an outdoor patio area, but it's actually going to be one of the first in Michigan of a retractable roof that we're putting over this patio area. Yeah, there's a good shot of it right there. So there's quite a bit of financial monies that we're putting into this building, and it's needed, we know, but it's also brand new bathrooms that we're putting in. The storage building that occurs along the back, kind of wraps around the back of the building, is purely for storage. And to answer your question, there's 1 parking space required for that storage area. The majority of this parking is the patio area. It's 9 of the 12 that we're needing for that. It's 570 square feet. It probably won't be used year-round. We are putting heat and cooling out there, but probably not in February, January is my guess. But to get to the point of why we're here, which is regards to the 12 parking spaces, because, and I was part of the project back when we did the ZMC building, got a couple variances, well, 1 in particular, for the parking, is that shared parking concept that goes along with a mixed-use building that is daytime use versus an evening use, like a bar lounge area. So I have not heard of any, maybe Santa can answer this better than I've not heard of any parking issues that they've had at this particular venue, these buildings. Also, as I stated in my letter, we also have 7 parking spaces that occur parallel spaces on Main Street that we don't get to use. We don't get to calculate those, but they're there for the patrons to use. So in my mind, it's not really 12 spaces we're asking for. It's more like 5 spaces is what we're asking for. So I know I can't use those, but they're going to be used. So that's kind of where we are coming from why we think that the 12 spaces that we're asking for should not be an issue. One, because we're finding more people are walking, biking. We're planning on putting bike racks there for people to actually park their bikes at, which currently there are none. So again, trying to become more part of the neighborhood. We're redoing the whole parking lot, completely redone, stormwater detention. So there's quite amount of money that we're putting into this facility. So go ahead.
Well, as Brian mentioned, when I joined the 2 lots and we have this shared concept, that has worked out extremely well. So during the day, the commercial building will use next door and vice versa in the evening as far as the bar. So that's always been great and we've never had any issues. In fact, quite often people will compliment us because we do have parking and it's free, so that's an advantage.
I also want to make one other comment, and the renderings don't do it justice, but we're putting in a substantial amount of landscaping in this. We're putting trees in, bushes. It's not going to be in an asphalt parking lot anymore like it currently is. So be happy to answer any questions.
Yes. I just wanted to, take a look. I first wanted to say that I think the retractable roof concept is really interesting. Question I wanted to ask is, will there be electric lighting or any of that
There will be lighting there, yes. But it's all going to be directed into the space. So there isn't going to be any lighting. We are redoing all the parking lot lighting there, but as you know, the parking lot lighting today is very antiquated there. And so we're actually putting the shielded, direct down light fixtures in the parking lot area. To answer your question with regard to lighting within it's going to be mounted to the wall, so the block wall. There's an access point from the bar out into the patio area, but there's also an exit out of the retractable area out to the parking lot as well. But that's not intended to be an entrance for people to come into. They have to go into the bar to then go out to the patio area.
So I guess just to make it clear on my end, those lights are going to be on whether or not the roof is open or closed. Obviously at night,
Probably just at night, I would assume.
At night. But then I guess what I'm saying is whether or not the roof is open or closed, the lights will still be on.
I would assume so, yeah.
Okay, that's the question.
We're actually planning on putting some mini splits out there for cooling purposes, but also heating. We're trying to make it as most year-round as we possibly can. But we also know that those are not insulated walls either. So it could get dicey in February, right, sitting out there. But again, we then have beautiful days in February sometimes too. So it gives her a lot of flexibility.
And I think it will be a really great thing for Royal Oak as well, because this is a concept that is used a lot on the East Coast, New York. Actually, I just came back from Chicago 2 days ago and went and saw two units there, and they're just absolutely breathtaking. So I think it'll be, a showstopper.
Any questions? I have a quick one that I just thought of after they said it's coming from the base of the patio. If that was not enclosed and it was just an open patio, would that have caused additional parking spots, or because it's got the enclosed potential for at least most of the year, that's why it got counted?
In the past, we would view outdoor patio services for like restaurants or bars as being different. However, now we do include them as being part of the one space for every 65 square feet of usable floor area.
All right, thank you.
we originally had designed it without the retractable roof. And when we got our pricing back on what it was going to cost to do just the patio itself, that's when she started thinking about, oh my gosh, well, why don't I make this so that I just don't have people there from May to October, right? And so maybe I can expand it. And the retractable roof is about $250,000, so it's a substantial amount. But the longevity of it is why you do it. So.
Yes.
And just again, for the record, what would be the material that the retractable roof is made out of?
It's actually aluminum storefront. So it's a black frame, similar to what you see right there, with glass panels. And then there's 6 panels on the top. 8 panels on the top. There's another rendering that actually shows the roof open, I believe. Yeah, there it is. So the 2 end ones are fixed, and then the 3 middle ones go to the left and to the right. So the center of it is what becomes open.
Ms. Robbins.
No.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you. We'll open this up to public comment, and then we'll ask whether or not you want us to proceed afterwards. Okay. Is there anyone to speak on this matter? If so, please come forward for public comment. Going once? Going twice? 3 times. All right, we'll close. Would you like us to proceed or postpone till next month?
Proceed.
Okay, thank you. We'll bring it to this side of the table, discussion and/or motions. Ms. Sukin.
Just for discussion at this point, I really do like the new design. I think the inside could use some remodeling. And whenever I drive by, I never see that parking lot full. So I don't think it's a problem at all. So I see no reason to vote against this
Is that a
request.
motion?
Okay, I'll move to grant the variance request.
All right, finally, she gets one. I didn't see who put their hands up first. I'll do Mr. Moore. All right, anything else to add, Ms. Sukin?
No.
Okay, Mr. Moore.
Yeah, I'll just say that I think the alternating uses of this property, as the petitioner mentioned, will definitely make a difference. The businesses are utilized at different times of the day, so I don't think that the parking would be a concern.
Ms. Robbins.
I think the same thing, the usage of the 2 buildings is complementary. I drove that area, and I grew up here, I'm totally real over. Never realized there was that much space back there, so plenty of space. I'll be in favor.
Mr. Gabbard.
Just to go through our factors.
Thank you.
The chapter's restrictions unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted purpose. In this case, I do believe, especially this isn't technically in the downtown district, but it pretty much is. I think our parking requirements are on the high side, especially given I drive past this property frequently. I've never noticed a parking issue there. The variance will do substantial justice to the applicant as well as to the other property owners in the district, and a lesser relaxation than that requested would not give substantial relief to the owner of the property or be more consistent with justice to other property owners. Obviously, this will do substantial justice to the applicant. We have no public comments in opposition. We do have a letter in support. I live nearby. I'm kind of in favor of this. I think it would more likely draw me there. So, and then a lesser relaxation would not give substantial relief. The parking requirements are what they are, and that's about the size of a patio you need in order to actually have it be a functional patio for a restaurant. I don't see it going smaller would do anything. So I believe that there's no lesser relief that will be available. The plight of the landowner is due to the unique circumstances of the property, and it's true that they're landlocked. It is what it is. They have what they have. So I believe that's a situation of that. And then the alleged hardship has not been created by any person presently having an interest in the property. I think it's a land size issue as well as a downtown use issue. I don't view this as something that they're creating, just because they presented the designs, it is still an issue that they would need to overcome in order to expand the use and expand the business and keep it as a thriving business in the city of Royal Oak. So I believe we meet all 4 factors.
Any other comments? Yes.
I also will be voting in favor of this. I think it's a very novel concept. They've gotten multiple variances before, and I appreciate the applicant and the owner, being creative with the parking, especially with the other building. And so, like many of my colleagues, I've been to the Yield Saloon multiple times, and I've never had an issue with parking. So, I'll be voting in favor.
Okay, Mr. Langweber?
Yeah, I think an important point in the favor of the applicant is that these properties are contiguous, and you control through ownership the entire parcel. It's not separate, entities with agreements that couldn't be enforced in the future. You directly control the success of the parking and the management of this. And if my numbers are right, the medical office, the pharmacy, the fitness center, those added up are 94 spaces. The bar lounge, including the patio, are 48 spaces. So actually, most of the load on that lot comes from the other building. And the existing spaces of 78 are what you've got on the lot now. So I think it really is a great blend of time management, for how these properties are used, which is very efficient. And the kind of balancing of those uses, I think, is terrific. So I would be in favor of the motion.
Mr. Reddy, did you have your hand up or no? Oh, sorry. Thought I did. Any other comments? I, too, will be in favor of this for the multitude of comments that have already gone through. I think this is a great addition. I've seen enough bar rescues that you either renovate or you die if you're in the bar business or restaurant business. So I think this will be great. And especially if the atrium is shaded so that protects you from that summer sun and yet enjoy that breeze. I can imagine getting a pint there would be very nice once that gets done. I agree that it's a great combination here. And even if it wasn't combined like this, the fact of this being so close to the downtown, it pretty much is the extension. You're fortunate to have all those parking spots in the first place to encourage people to come there. So because of all that, I think that's your hardship, is that you're in a downtown location, yet you're forced all these spots that you have. So if there's no other comments, we'll move to vote. All those in favor of the variance, granting the variance as requested, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Congratulations. Best of luck to you. Yes. We're going to take a 5-minute break. So if anyone needs to use the restrooms or anything, feel free to. Real quick. Let's start things back up. Whenever you are ready with, let's see, did I even say which one it was? I didn't. Yes, thank you. Case number 24-08-26. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. The subject site is on the east side of Woodward Avenue, north of Catalpa Road, and it's located within the general business zoning district. The property has a width of 40 feet, a depth of 100 feet, and then the total lot area is just approximately 4,000 square feet. And it is currently developed with a one-story commercial building, which was most recently occupied by an art supplies retailer. The petitioner is proposing to convert the tenant space into a standard sit-down restaurant. Now, the prior use of an art supplies retailer required a total of 8 off-street parking spaces. So the tenant space can be awarded a credit of those 8 spaces. However, the zoning ordinance still requires restaurants to provide at least 1 parking space per each 65 square feet of usable floor area. Based upon the petitioner's floor plans, it contains 1,738 square feet of usable floor area, which comes to 27 off-street parking spaces. So now when you subtract the 8 credited spaces, the site would be required to provide 19 off-street parking spaces. The site itself, based upon the petitioner's site plan, provides 2 off-street parking spaces at the rear of the property. There are spaces north of the site, just off of Bassett. Those are within the city's right-of-way. The spaces directly in front of the building, those are part of the MDOT state right-of-way. So these spaces are not owned by any one private entity. So these spaces, of course, cannot be included in the petitioner's parking calculations. So the petitioner would be requesting a variance to waive 17 of the minimum required 19 off-street parking spaces. Now, commercial and non-residential uses are allowed a maximum driveway width of 30 feet. At the rear of the property, coming in off of the 20-foot public alley, there is a driveway that extends the entire width of the property, that obviously being 40 feet. So the petitioner is seeking a variance to waive 10 feet of the maximum permitted driveway width of 30 feet. Just a few other anecdotal points I'd like to point out to the board. The the property owner rather, did obtain permits through the city's building division to perform exterior updates and give the building a bit of a facelift. So that's why in the photos, the building looks all boarded up. And then this sign on top of the building is non-conforming. So if this business, or frankly any other business that comes after them, wants to reuse or reface the sign, they would need to obtain a sign variance, but that would be through the city's planning commission. Thank you.
Questions for staff? Anyone? All right. If there's no questions, if the petitioner is present, you may come forward.
Okay, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Mark Isaacoff. I'm here along with my partners, David Pinkasov, Vlad Shemaev. We're appearing before you today as longtime members of the community. We began our restaurant careers over 12 years ago as dishwashers and as busboys in local restaurants, and we've worked in the Woodward corridor, including in Royal Oak, ever since. Now we're seeking the opportunity to serve the very same communities that uplifted us with a family-friendly, diner-style, fast-casual burger joint in a beautiful but underutilized property that faces challenges due to this ordinance. So I'd like to just briefly touch on all 4 criteria and how we feel that we meet those criteria as listed in the zoning ordinance, and there's an expanded narrative with additional details that has been provided to you as well. So as it stands, the ordinance makes it impossible to utilize the building for a permitted purpose without the variance, causing that unreasonable restriction and undue hardship. Granting this variance would pass substantial justice by allowing us to use the property in a manner that is consistent with its permitted and intended use. We believe that this is a very unique circumstance, given the location in a very densely developed area where expanding parking facilities aren't feasible. And in addition, we believe the building's historic architecture and existing infrastructure make it uniquely suited for a restaurant, but the ordinance presents an extraordinary challenge that's not commonly faced by other properties. And so just lastly, there's a clear absence of hardship or self-hardship since these conditions existed prior to our interest in this property and are inherent to the building and the location itself. And so just strictly based off of the criteria alone, we do feel that this is a compelling case already, but we'd like to point out several other factors that we think further supports the approval. So as Alex mentioned, there are 20 shared parking spaces on the Woodward side. In addition, there are 8 other spots on the Bassett side, and we've shown an effort to put in parking where we can in the rear of the building. Just based off observations, these lots are heavily underutilized, often being less than 10% full at any given point, again, just based on observation. We have shown good faith with our neighboring businesses and a willingness to develop a relationship with them. And we've received signed letters of support that we've provided to the board from Italian Interior Concepts, AutoZone that neighbors us, along with Sun's Crystal and Bead Shop. Further, our expected peak hours are expected to be in the evening time, well past the general operating hours of the neighboring businesses. As a matter of fact, some of the businesses are closed on Sundays and Mondays, which sort of ensures no infringement on their parking capacity with those existing parking facilities. And just as a final point, our concept is a fast casual, family-friendly burger joint that will not and will never serve alcohol. We expect our turnaround times from our guests to be around 20 to 30 minutes. And we expect a large portion of our volumes to come from carryout sales. And so just to wrap it up, Buns and Patties is aiming to transform a currently underutilized property into a vibrant and affordable dining destination that serves the community's needs. The parking variance is essential to this by addressing the unique property constraints while also ensuring compliance with the spirit of the ordinance. And we believe our proposal will benefit the Royal Oak area by offering a distinctive dining experience that not only enriches the local economy, but enriches the culture and the communities. And so with that, we welcome any questions.
Questions for the petitioner? 2 questions. The first one, you have a West Bloomfield address on there. Is this going to be like a second location of Buns and Patties, or is this the first one?
No, this is the first one. The West Bloomfield address is just where the business is registered.
Okay. Second question is with the sign. I know obviously we don't have jurisdiction over that. Are you planning on going to the Planning Commission to get a variance for that sign?
Absolutely. Yeah. We love the historic nature of the building, the old retro feel, and we want to preserve that.
And then this is more of a question for Alex, but will the Planning Commission see whatever we decide tonight as part of their decision-making process?
Well, the Planning Commission would review just their sign specifications as opposed to the plan set that's included in your packets.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Any other questions?
Question. I'm sorry. Are you tenants in the building or you own the building?
We're tenants.
Tenants in the building. And what's do you currently have a lease, or it's subject to, obviously, this approval, I would assume, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Is the owner present, or is the owner here in the building?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Reddy.
Well, so the city's formula would require 27 spots. Could you tell us like how many spots do you think will be in use? I know you said you're expecting there to be a lot of carry out, but do you have like some ideas of how many customers you'll have in, eating in?
Yes. Yeah, excellent question. So the current iteration of the plans calls for about 33 seats in the dining room that are seatable. Based off of our projections, we anticipate 12 to 15 spots being occupied based on observations of similar restaurants in the area at the peak point, if that answers your question.
And just a follow-up question, there are obviously no plans for a drive-through now. There wouldn't be one in the future. No. So everybody going in is going to have to park, get out, get whatever, and leave.
There's potential for a walk-up window, and we're definitely going to encourage alternate forms of transportations by potentially putting bike racks where we can. But no, there are no plans for a drive-through.
Any question? I have a couple. First off, how many staff do you plan on employing at peak time?
Yeah, thank you for the question. 4 to 6 max at any given shift.
Okay, so 4 to 6 max at any given shift. Probably there'll be a little bit of crossover because you got to have some crossover. So we'll say 8, worst case scenario. Your plan actually calls out for 2 seating areas, 30 plus 10, so that's 40, so that's 48. I'm just looking at your plan.
In total seats, there are 33, Mr. Chairman.
I understand you're saying 33. I'm looking right at the plan right here that if we zoomed in, it says 30 seats in the one and 10 in the other. Either way, the question I have for you, if you know even with 33, we'll be nice and say that 33 plus 8, that's over 40. That's a lot more than the parking spots that you're even asking for. Why have this design in this concept versus one of like almost like a grab and go like we had the other month ago with the Annies, where they basically didn't have any spots whatsoever to guarantee that they wouldn't need many parking?
So if I'm understanding the question, are you asking why don't we design it in such a manner that it is more grab and go and requires less seating?
Yes.
Well, we think that this is something that serves the community better. It's an affordable diner-style restaurant that is intended to be family-friendly, who often carpool. I think it's just a matter of providing what we believe the community is seeking.
Okay. All right, Mr. Reddy, then Mr. Blaine.
I think the concern is that there was feedback from people on Bassett, and the concern is that that's where the overflow would go. So, I guess, do you have any ideas about preventing that, or what would you do if you saw that was happening?
Well, yes, the way we understand it is there is a little bit of parking space prior to any residential areas. We welcome any sort of suggestions, but we're happy to engage in conversations with neighboring lots like AutoZone, who have written a letter of support for this if it comes to that. But we will engage in any risk mitigation techniques that pleases the board.
Mr. Ryan,
do you have plans for outdoor seating for tables or anything else on the outside?
No, sir.
I can imagine there, the trash mitigation and things like that. People pull up, they're going to eat in their cars, they're going to throw stuff out the window. What methods do you have to control that kind of behavior?
We have 3 dedicated owners that are going to make the outside of it look as beautiful as possible, but more practical measures that you're seeking will definitely have publicly used trash receptacles outside that are, weather appropriate to help mitigate that.
Your market, your family-friendly market, as you guys have it written, is 3 in the morning. Is that? I'm just seeing a little disconnect with that.
Respectfully, I don't look at that as a disconnect. I think that the late night dining crowd has seen better days in the Metro Detroit area at large, and we see that as an opportunity to serve the community. That being said, with regard to having no alcohol, having affordable prices, having a very simple menu, we do feel that it is very family friendly.
Mr. Wolf.
Excuse me. So the question is more aimed at Alex, but could the board essentially condition that that they go and seek, some kind of waiver from the police department to put no parking signs on Bassett? Is that
They
could not do that?
Yeah, I mean, that's not really an option. That would be very difficult to enforce administratively.
Okay. Just wanted to ask that.
The only thing that's been done in the past, and this is outside of this, would be citizens asking the city to put permit parking up on their street.
And we can't force
no,
that.
we cannot.
Okay.
Nor can we force them to get lease spots from another spot. They can show that if they wanted to, but we can't force that.
Okay. Yeah, it's good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? I have a quick one. Going back to the staff again, I'll be nice and say generous and say 6 staff are parking. Where are they parking at when they go to work here?
The idea is to have them park at the back when available and overflow into the side parking lot.
Okay. So then theoretically you would have 6 less spots that are taken up by staff.
Yes, potentially, so long as street parking is available up until the residential spots. We would definitely encourage or enforce, if we could, that our staff take those street parking spots that don't encroach into the residential area, such that we leave more spots available. I think right now with 26 spots, or 28 spots, we have double the capacity that we would expect. So I don't.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Seeing none, we'll move to public comment. Afterwards, we'll ask if you guys want us to proceed or to postpone for a month, and you can let us know at the end of public comment.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask one question?
Yes, you may.
Maybe this is out of order, so I apologize. Are there any other concerns that maybe haven't been addressed from any of the board members that may be opposed to this hearing? We'd love the opportunity to try to assess and allay those concerns right here and now if possible.
The only concern, and others might agree with me, the only concern is the amount of parking. I know you think maybe 10, 15 people, but honestly, as a business person, you probably would love to have all your seats filled. Worst case scenario, all your seats are filled, plus all your staff is filled. Where's all that parking going? It's going to go into the surrounding areas. That's my biggest concern, versus if this was a different concept with more of a grab-and-go case where you had not a whole lot of seating inside, I'd be very much more amenable to a little bit of overflowing of parking versus that. That's my biggest concern.
Understood.
And I just want to say, kind of following up on that, there was a couple doors down from you in this exact strip. I believe it's the old mattress store. A couple years ago, a company wanted to open up a ghost kitchen in there. I think they were going to. I looked up the agenda. I think there were 16 ghost kitchens that they were going to fit in there.
In a different property.
We denied that one at that time. The parking variance for that use was very similar. So the concerns are, there's probably less staff at your facility than there would be at theirs, and but there was a lot of concerns about the amount of people that would be
Traffic.
coming and going, especially for like, you know, DoorDash and all those kind of things. So it's, I just, unless you're able to show how that's going to be somehow different, the concerns are identical in my mind. So.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Board Member, but yeah, I can't argue against that it would be different. This is the concept that we feel is the best concept for this area, for this unique and beautiful location. But I would just point to similar restaurants that have achieved a parking variance in tighter conditions, like Owl, just as sort of a comparison. I think they had to have achieved a similar variance based on the observable parking that they have, and I think that we far surpass their parking capacity.
Okay, all right. Yes.
Just one thing, looking at this, and I applaud you for your entrepreneurship on this. This really sounds good. It makes me hungry right now.
Thank you.
I see a problem here that really is nothing to do more. It's more about the obsolescence of the design of this Woodward strip, and we have this so many times where there's just no, you know, we have that MDOT parking in the front, and there's really no parking for the design of that. And it's not you, it's not me, it's just this whole thing up and down Woodward that times have changed, and people don't go to stores anymore, you know, to go buy something. They're buying it online, and what else is there but to have good restaurants? So it's difficult. It's just.
Yes. Thank you for your comments. We totally understand, and I'll just leave it at this, but the decision is mostly made based off of meeting the criteria of the zoning ordinance as it's written, correct? I think that we have made a compelling case, and while we do respect any concerns, we still do believe that we have a compelling case based on how the zoning ordinance is written and how we meet all four criteria. And that's all I will say.
Any other questions for the petitioner? All right, you may sit down.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Comments from public comments, you may come forward one at a time.
My name's Mary Walsh. I live at 1734 Bassett. One, I welcome all businesses that bring something to the community, that are viable and don't intrude on other businesses or the community. Unfortunately, I think this business has underestimated how much parking they might need. And the overflow parking is going to be a big concern for myself and our neighbors. We've all discussed it. We have had a situation with Cruz and Muir where their staff in particular has had to come park on our street, and we've let it go, and it kind of ended after the pandemic. We have not had much, but right now these gentlemen probably have not seen much issues with the parking because the buildings, a lot of them are vacant. Recently, we've seen a new, I think a kitchen design building, a beautiful one, go in, and I'm very happy to see that. And I know the poor gentleman that owns the building has put some money into this building, and I hope people fill it up. And I wish it would be these gentlemen who seem like so earnest and want to put something in there. I just don't think this building is the correct venue for them because of this parking situation. And I think Ms. Robinson said it correctly. These buildings are outdated for business along Woodward. The other thing I don't think these gentlemen are aware of is the other businesses along Woodward, they close at 9 o'clock. Nothing else is open. It's dark. And I just don't think it's the correct venue for them. And I know that we don't want to see the parking on our street, especially at 1 in the morning or up to 3 o'clock on our street. You know, people we don't know on our street. So that's a concern for us, and we don't want to see potentially new businesses fail because of if the city is correct, and I think they'd be more correct than the estimates of this new business. if they need 27 of the 32 parking spots, that only leaves what, 5 for the additional businesses? How is that, they're gonna fail because there's no place for their clientele to park, and that's not gonna help anybody. So that's why I say it's not gonna be a win-win situation for anybody. So on that, I would have to say I would vote no for this variance for them. But on the other hand, I would like to see you guys find a place at Royal Oak because your food sounds tremendous. And you seem like really hard-working guys. Don't give up on Royal Oak or finding a spot. I just don't think this is the one for
Okay,
you.
thank
So,
you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next.
Good evening. Greg Keys, 1812 Bassett. I submitted 2 letters to the board. Hopefully you have both of those.
Yep. Yes.
Acknowledging, very good. After reading both of those, I wanted to make sure you had mentioned about the ghost kitchens. The building in question that they were planning to put that in is the exact same location for that. It wasn't the mattress shop, it was the Art Accents. You're aware of that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because of the fact the amount of spaces that they would need would greatly prohibit the amount of spaces to make this viable, and it was unanimously turned down. So I would suppose if that was turned down, this would automatically make this to be turned down in the same manner. The amount of traffic that this would entail, as I think everybody is picking up on, would make such a hindrance. We have so many youngsters in our neighborhood now, and especially with the amount of traffic that this would entail, would really put our neighborhood's children at a real peril, plus the amount of litter that would come with this and the amount of noise and everything. I had put into my letter of possibly getting the Royal Oak Police Department's input onto this. Was that at all brought into thought process?
This is public comment. I can't.
No, I put that into my letter. Was that at all given a thought process? It's a yes or no. It was. I put that in my letter.
I know, but
oh, okay.
I can't respond to anything.
Okay.
This is public comment. You may comment, not question answer.
Okay.
Unfortunately, sorry.
Very good. So again, just saying, I think this would be absolutely horrendous to approve the request. Good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next person.
Hi, I'm Mike Pollock. I'm Mike Pollock. I own one of the buildings in that complex. And, my concern, again, obviously is going to be the parking. With the 2 spots behind there, 8 on Bassett, another 20 or so, it's around 30 spots, 32 spots. They need 27 for that one small building. We have 5 other buildings. 2 of the buildings are 6,000 square feet each with no parking behind it. This evening I drove by at 6:40 on the way here, and Cruise and Mirror parking lots were full, and there was overflow parking going in front of that building complex from there. There were about 6-7 cars. So again, my concern would be for all those businesses in that complex would, in essence, either fail and or have to park in Bassett in front of their homes and or not be able to be leased out at all and just be an eyesore to the community. So, thank you.
Anyone else to speak on this? Going once? Going twice? Well, the public comment is closed. Would you like us to proceed or postpone for a month?
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you very much. Bring it to this side of the board. Comments and or motions? Who wants to jump in? Oh, Mr. Gavin, go ahead.
I pretty much stated earlier, I don't see this as being any different than that ghost kitchen. The parking concerns were just as prevalent. I appreciate the business that you're proposing and trying to put together here. I think it's a great thing. It would be a great thing.
And I also honestly really appreciated that in your letter you went through the 4 factors. Not many petitioners do that, and I really do appreciate that. Usually it's only the attorneys that I see doing that. So, but I understand your arguments. I just can't. I just have a fundamental disagreement. I don't see that there's sufficient parking there, and I don't see that it will do substantial justice to neighboring property owners, and I don't think it will. I just don't think it will work for this particular spot for the reason of the amount of traffic and the number of available parking spaces for those spots there, those buildings. So I can't.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, I move to deny the variance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Anything else to add, Mr. Yavin?
Nope, that pretty much covers it.
Mr. Langweber?
Yeah, many of the points. I think that this, like a lot of these other types of parcels, by increasing the load of parking, you're creating the detrimental effect on your neighbors, both to the sides and the back. And I think that the specifics of this site are just such that the use is too intensive. And I think there are other permitted purposes that the site could be used, but I believe that as presented, this is not one of them, with the parking demand as it is.
Mr. Wolf, then Mr. Reddy.
I'm going to respectfully disagree with my colleagues here, and I'm going to vote against the motion to deny. And the reason being is I did go through all the letters and I did understand what was going on, but what got me to vote to support this was the letters of support from the various businesses on the strip and right across the street at AutoZone. I don't think that there's going to be an issue with parking on that particular on the MDOT right of way, and especially or in the AutoZone parking lot across the street, especially if the timing is very different. I would like to see, and obviously we cannot enforce this, some kind of prohibition, at least by staff that work at this place, from parking on Bassett Road. Whether that means going into an agreement with AutoZone or to use their parking spaces, whatever that is. Obviously, we cannot enforce that. But if the petitioners are, I'm inclined to believe that they're working in good faith, trying to keep their people at least from being away from the parking. I think that would be a compromise that would work. But just my 2 cents.
Okay, Mr. Reddy?
I'm a little torn on this. I think I'll be voting in favor of the motion, but I do think the parking demand is somewhat less than people are worried about, because, I mean, if you do have 33 spots, that doesn't mean 33 individual cars are coming. And this area is well served by bus, so that would be, staff could take the bus. If they had an agreement with AutoZone, I think we might have a similar situation that we had with Ye Old Saloon. In the case of late night, people could park in AutoZone if they had an agreement, which the AutoZone owner did approve, give us a letter. However, we don't have those, and we do have people on Bassett who are worried about it, so I think I'll be voting in favor of opposing this variance. But.
Yeah, I have difficulty with this one. I love the business plan, and I live kind of nearby, so I'd love to be able to ride my bike up there. And I think it's a lot different than the ghost kitchens, because there's not going to be as many people driving in and out constantly. And I see Owl, which is also close to me, that doesn't have enough parking, but they seem to manage. But I am concerned about the people on Bassett, so I'm not sure. I want to hear if there's any other thoughts here. But I would think, you know, all the side streets off Woodward have that same problem. So I don't know if we can totally utilize Woodward by restricting all restaurants from going in there.
Mr. Lineweber.
Oh, I was just going to say, as regards to Owl, I feel like Owl has somewhat less seating than what is proposed here, right?
Yes, they do. Mr. Lineweber.
Yeah, I think the Bassett, like the other roads, when you can't put a no parking sign up for the sake of a restaurant that forces the person that lives there to not park in front of their own house. I think that's, the problem that is when you try to restrict the parking for the public, you're restricting it for everybody. And what Cruz and Muir, I think, has done is created a situation where they had to put in a permit situation for the neighbors, which is really a burden on the neighbors. And so that's kind of specifically what we're talking about is, does this put a burden on the neighbors in that sense? And I think you see that in other areas, and I don't see any reason why that wouldn't occur or unfold as a result of this.
Other comments? I too am torn, but I will probably be voting in favor of denying this. I love the concept. I hate the fact that building has been its way so long. If this was less intensive, especially if it was like the grab and go concept that came a couple months ago with the Annie's, where it's not, if it had half the seating that it's got here, it'd be a lot better off. I wish you guys seem like great guys, and your concept actually seems better suited for that old chicken restaurant that's on Woodward over by the zoo that's been abandoned for another 10 years right across. They have definitely plenty of parking, definitely plenty of room. I mean, this seems a lot better for that, especially teaming up with the zoo. But I think, unfortunately, this is just too intense for the amount of seating that you want. Worst case scenario occurs, you're going to be affecting the neighborhoods and the businesses nearby. Granted, it'd be easier if AutoZone was guaranteeing, hey, they can park here and no problem, but they can't do that and we can't enforce that. So unfortunately, that's the hardship. I agree, hardship is the parking, and it's not self-imposed, but the one thing of having to have all the things in order for us to grant it is the hardship of you wouldn't do any harm towards your neighbors or the surrounding area, and that's where it comes in and why I'd have to go. Yes.
Two things. One, just for clarity, I think when you said hardship,
Oh,
we
sorry.
meant practical difficulties.
Yes, that's what I meant. Sorry.
And then two, I just realized as I was relooking at there's actually two variances requested, so my motion was to deny both of them. So
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yep, no problem. Okay. Any other comments? Mr. Reddy?
I guess, Mr. Gavin, would you be in favor of splitting the motion? Because I'm not necessarily opposed to the driveway.
I can do that. I forgot who seconded it, so I'm in favor of just focusing on just the A, which is the parking variance, waive 17 of the minimum 19 required off-street parking spaces. So I move that my motion is then to deny
A.
Or A.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Lineweber, do you have any problem with that?
I have no problem with that.
Okay. So the motion that we're discussing right now is just A right now. Denying waiving 17 on minimum required off-street parking. Any other comments on that one? All right, signifying none, we'll move to vote. All those in favor of denying the waiving of 17 off-street parking spots signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that motion passes, which denies that variance A. Is there now a motion regarding variance B?
Perhaps you might want to ask if they still want to go forward with B. If A was denied, it might be moot.
No, okay, then, okay.
You need to withdraw it then.
Then, do you officially withdraw B?
We do.
Okay, B is withdrawn. I'm sorry, but unfortunately, Your variance request did not pass.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep.
Can I ask a quick question?
Unfortunately, no. You can make a comment during general comment, but that's about it. There is nothing for other business that I know of. Now we are open for general public comments, so if there's any comments you may make, but unfortunately we can't do question and answers.
You can make a comment.
I'd be happy
You can
to
make
talk
a
about it.
comment.
I'll make a comment. It would be nice if.
You can come
the
forward.
city had someone that
Yep.
could work with, if the city had somebody that could work with people like these gentlemen that came here, if they said, we know, there was
The microphone.
Yeah, feel free to, so people at home can hear you.
Is there anyone in the city that you could refer, somebody that wants to come to Royal Oak and work, open a business, that you have somebody in the city that you could say, we have somebody in the city, why don't you talk to them? We think we might have some locations. Is there anybody like that in the city?
I would say the business manager.
It would be nice to try to get more business that way.
Yeah, economic development director.
I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, I don't know. I'm done. I'm going.
All right, then, if anyone else for public comment, may come forward. Going once, going twice, 3 times, all right. Who'd like to make the mystery motion?
Actually, though, before I do that, I just want to state for the record that anybody who wants to open a business in Royal Oak should talk to the city's economic development department. But I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, I saw Mr. Reddy's hand up before you're speaking. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries, we're done. Thank you.
Let's go.